Millicent, budget making as it is in management of leadership is always work in progress. There is no perfection to it. That's why even the most developed countries keep on having new leaders. Otherwise, they could have finished the work and say, sasa tumemaliza, there are no more leaders to be needed. So there is always it's always work in progress to reach where we are headed. He also asked about the regrets. What I believe myself is that I am the sum total of all my experiences, bad and good. And if I want to remove any bad experience from my CV, that is, as a human being, then I am deserting to be who I am. Therefore, very rarely will I have regrets. What I'll have are lessons to do things better. Not about only doing, to treat people better. And if at some point you feel that you've been wronged, I always believe it's an opportunity for you to know how to treat people better when you are at a vantage point. And therefore, no much regret. Yes, my brother.
My name is Mike from Ndindi. Now, kwa vile kuna maswala kadhaa umeguzia pale kuhusiana na uhusiano wako na wakazi wako wa Kiharu, ulichaguliwa moja kwa moja kwa sababu haukuwa na vibango vile kuguza Kiharu. Vile ukasema kwamba hakuna yeyote aliyekupigia simu kuhusiana na kazi yako na uhusiano wako wa kikazi. Na labda uhusiano wako na Rais William Ruto umekuwa vipi hivi karibuni, na labda kabla ya kubanduliwa hamsini kwa aliyekuwa naibu rais, uhusiano wako na Rais William Ruto ni upi hadi kufikia sasa? Je, amesema na wewe muda wote ule? Umesema na aliyekuwa naibu rais popote kule? Uhusiano wako vile vile na aliyekuwa naibu rais ni upi hadi kufikia sasa?
Mheshimiwa, swali langu ni jina langu ni Ronny kutoka idhaa ya Moreni.
Your name is?
Ronny.
Okay.
Swali langu kwako ni kuhusiana na utendakazi na uchapaji kazi wako katika eneo bunge la Kiharu. Binafsi tulitembea huko na tukafanya taarifa kuhusiana na kuimarisha elimu, ndio maana tulipatia makala ya elimu bora na si bora elimu. Hivi sasa umengatuliwa na kuondolewa katika wadhifa ambao umekuwa unashikilia, na hizi tetesi ambazo zimekuwa zikisemekana na viongozi kwamba mgao wako ulielekezwa katika eneo bunge lako, kwa sasa hivi umeondolewa. Je, ujenzi wa shule utaendelea, madarasa yataendelea, kabla zitaendelea na wanafunzi wataendelea kula, au sasa bajeti vile vile itakuwa imefinywa, una uwezo zaidi?
Okay. Kidogo tu, the reason you see me I'm saying chache so that I don't also get lost. Let me answer the two very specifically. Mike, you asked about the relationship with our leaders. The position I held is a consultative position in terms of before a decision is made, there has to be a lot of consultations. But as I said before, because I also don't want to discuss personalities today, the position or the answer I gave before, I think it answers many things. That I have not had any conversation directly or on phone with any leader of our coalition in regards to the position I used to hold. And I think if you look at it, it answers many things also, which I also don't want to go into. In terms of the relationship with other leaders, I respect everyone. I mean, I'm one of those people who believe there's no person who becomes a leader by just being fetched from wherever. There is always a process they go through. Because I am one, I know. And therefore, in terms of you've asked the relationship between the president and the former deputy president, the position I hold is that I respect every leader. And I could have things I need to talk about I could have reservations on decisions made, but I don't think it has been within my role to talk about those things, especially in public. The other thing in that question is that maybe for clarity's sake, the last discussion I had with the president of the country, the last political discussion, either a chat or a discussion, as it were, was before October of last year. And I would not want, and you permit me to do that, not to discuss any further about any leader, because as you're all aware, I stopped serving in my position. It's barely a week. I also need to understand many things before I talk, because I believe as a leader, I mean, I lead people. There are people who look up to us as leaders. And therefore, even when you see that I am not answering some questions, it's not because I can't answer them. I believe you have covered me previously, and you know for sure that, respectively, in this world I only fear God. So whatever I need to say, I have no reservation of saying. But also, we are given wisdom to say when to say, how to say it. And I believe we are here in Kenya. We'll keep interacting. If there is more to be said, if there is more to be clarified, we are allowed. Ronnie, he has been to Kiharu, by the way, to cover. Achana na taoja hii ni maji ya dimu kidogo ndio. Ndio mkiuliza swali kwa ikuwe sawa. Ronnie, you've been to Kiharu, and I am grateful. And by the way, I want to request anyone who would want to come to Kiharu to look at what you've been doing. We are more than glad to host you. We don't do these things, especially of hosting people, because we want to blow our own trumpet. We do these things because I am convinced that if leaders started competing on the basis of what they are doing, the country would become better wholesomely. If our competition as leaders is deliverables, and we compete about who is doing what in terms of tangibles and development, is a very good discussion that you'd have as MPs, for example, because we hold CDF, and that is the reason why we would be glad even to host you. We have hosted, I think, 4 delegations of my colleagues in Kiharu on benchmarking exercises. We actually don't call them benchmarking. We call them peer-to-peer learning, because I also learn from them. I am not a non-knowing. And I also learn from my colleagues a great deal. And in terms of, like the video you see around, me wearing some goldish shirt, I'm sure you have seen it. That was on 4th of January last year. It is not a recent, it's not a recent video. And we have been doing those things primarily because I think at some point I was not doing the right thing, and at some point I learned. And therefore I feel that if I share my experiences with anyone, and I also learn from them, the management of public resources becomes better. If Kiharu improves, any other Mvita improves, if Embakasi East improves, if any other constituency improves, then Kenya holistically becomes a better place. And I want to underline, the leaders who come to Kiharu, they don't come to learn because I am all-knowing and I know everything. I also learn from them. And that is why I also go to their constituencies to learn what they do. And I also know majority are trying their best. Specifically to answer you now, is that the projects you saw in Kiharu, majority of it that we have done in our learning institutions, I actually did in my first term. In my first term, I was a member of a committee called Regional Integration. I think I have answered you. So I'll still call you next year. I hope we'll still be doing better, hopefully. Yes.
Majibu Kisao from K24. Kuna swali mwenzangu alikuwa ameuliza kwa kifupi tu kuhusiana na wale wabunge ambao walikuwa wanakejeli kwa labda kujilipizia pesa kuwatumikia wakazi wa Kiharu. Labda utawaambia nini? Tena niuliza alipouliza alafu waibie